A great win against Brentford, some quotes from the fan forum that a lot of Spurs fans didn't take well, an important Europa League opener at home to Qarabag, and then a trip to Old Trafford that we hardly ever enjoy makes for an interesting week for all Spurs supporters. And to discuss it all right now, I have my regular guest Jorri here. Jorri, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, Barnaby. How about yourself?
Yes, very well. The start of the week has begun, obviously, excitedly off the back of that Brentford game, and then I feel like a bit of a downer after the fans forum, but I'm looking ahead to the Qarabag game. But let's go back to Brentford because I didn't even get to talk to you after the We Are Tottenham TV game, did I? So I just wondered what you kind of thought of it overall, and you WhatsApped me about some little tactical tweaks you liked. So tell us all a bit about those.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about it. To be honest, I'm not sure what's tactics from Ange and what's the players getting it, and what's maybe just the circumstances on the pitch. Also, I was a bit surprised by Brentford's maybe lack of discipline from their point of view. Although I think it's kind of goes hand in hand with one really main stat that came out of the game, which was our lowest possession for quite a while.
Talk us through
Which
that then. Why do you think that was the case, and is that relevant to why we were so um, on top of the game throughout, in my eyes?
I definitely think so. I don't know if it was intentional from our point of view, but the way it turned out, if you just take performance completely out of it and take the teams even out of it, if you're facing the tactical challenge of a team sitting back and not coming out and not giving you space, and you having overwhelming possession, well, then, one of the ways to get them out is actually to let them have the ball, which maybe was coincidental, maybe it was intentional, but you alluded to it in our WhatsApp chat, a chat as well, that we took maybe more risks than we've done often before. And let's say that's the tactical setup from Ange, and he gets that through to the player saying, like, you guys need to take some big risks here. Well, that means that we're going to lose the ball a little bit more. Once we lose the ball, then we have the opportunity for the high press, which we absolutely utilize that opportunity, which then turns over the ball and turns over the ball at a point of time where the defense is transitioning into on the way of transitioning into their own offense, and that gives us space and therefore maybe better chances and therefore maybe more opportunity, because we could have put more in for sure. Once
Yeah.
again, we could have utilized our chances a little bit better. But in general, we were definitely much more, on an edge. We had a more cutting edge to
Yeah,
our offense for sure. Yeah.
we did. And I think, look, I think we've got to be fair where fairness is due. Brentford had a lot of injuries as well,
Yeah.
and they were continually trying to play out of the back. I think with maybe players that they're kind of replacement players who weren't probably strong enough at doing it, and that's why I think
Exactly.
a lot of their passes into midfield, which James Maddison I thought in particular was kind of reading and picking off very
Mhm.
easily, were just kind of a yard or two off.
Yeah.
Um, of course, I have to say I didn't, even though the stats say it didn't feel like a kind of 51%, 49% possession game. It felt like we had a lot of possession, but I guess the key part, and you're saying this as well, is that when we did have a possession, we were just quicker with it. Our tempo was up, and maybe that comes from Ange saying, "Look, if we're going to lose by not taking risks, so you might
Mhm.
as well take some risks."
Exactly. We once we had the possession, we kind of turned it into a conclusion quite quickly. Whether and of course mostly not ending with a goal, but also ending with goals. So and that thing turn like concluding that our offensive possession means that it's going to be turned over to them, which means that our percentage is going to go down, of course. So this is basically a math thing almost, and And the math is important in terms of once you have these extremely high possession numbers, you need to be Man City-esque to be able to get joy from that,
Mm.
and I think maybe our way forward is to relent
Relentlessly.
relent some of the possession to the
Oh, I see.
opposition team
Yeah.
in a at least when we're on the high press. I think we're not basically that's when our defense is also maybe the strongest really before it gets into our half
Totally.
and that's once again it's where their defense will then not be in formation and that will give us space. You saw also like Solanke's work was excellent in this game, I thought, and once again, the 2 10s or the 2 8s or what you want to call it, was a key factor. I
Yeah.
also saw the tweak that Madison was now mostly the guy falling of the midfield, of the forward midfield players. He was mostly falling back, and both he was really excellent defensively. I was really impressed, and in general, he's really upped this game defensively, and I think this was the crowning game for that.
Yeah.
He also kind of him and Odoki now are more taking care of the left wide area, I think, and Sonny, like we talked about, is coming more into his golden box there,
Yeah.
and that was also giving joy. So yeah.
Yeah, completely. And you mentioned just there that Solanke played well, and I thought, obviously vital that he got off the mark. But I wondered what you thought over his first kind of 3.5 games. What's impressed you about him? What does he add to this side that we really struggled with last season?
I mean, I've always thought he's excellent at holding the ball up, and he's like the pressing. I think he's probably one of the best forward pressers in the league, in my view. Um, what impressed me, I mean, I wouldn't say it's more. It's definitely just kind of what I was expecting for Solanke. What I was glad to see is that he didn't overthink it. He didn't lose his nerve. He was exactly where he needed to be when the rebound came, and
Yeah.
that's what you want to see for a striker is his ability to read where the next opportunity might arise, and that he did that in that moment. Um,
The fox in the box.
yeah, Fox in the box completely, and yeah, so I wasn't surprised as really. He was more integrated. That was maybe the update from previous games. He was more integrated with the whole forward uh, squad, so it flowed better, I felt. So yeah.
Is there anything that worries you about Solanke then at that kind of price from what you've seen in the first 4 games? Because you've got kind of what you've expected, but is there anything that kind of makes you think he's not quite at that exact kind of top level that we're going to need to really push on further?
I mean, I've said before that I think like once you're talking about title challenges and stuff like that, then I think Solanke is more like your second choice than your first choice. There is a Swede down south that's definitely looking much more like a first choice in that regard. But I mean, Solanke is absolutely capable of proving us wrong in that regard. I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he both delivers the 20 goals and maybe goes beyond that. Because he's in a even more should be a more service heavy team than before. But I would say, yeah, in terms of going for top honors, Solanke is probably still a little bit on the fringe there, I think.
Which Swede were you
But
talking about? Gyökeres?
yes, that's the guy. Yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean, for
mean
me, he does
that's
look good, but someone's going to have to pay 100 million to get him out of Sporting, I would have
exactly,
thought.
and yeah, exactly. But this is what I meant. I'm not unhappy by the transfer summer, and but I'm also a realist. We didn't get any players that are going to help us for that kind of level of play, and maybe it's not the time. Maybe it's the old boardroom problems. Maybe I don't know. I don't really care too much to speculate about that right now. Solanke at least needs now to get his run and just let us see what he can produce for us. So yeah.
Totally. And obviously Brennan Johnson had a difficult week, and he really impressed me with that finish of his. And actually it impressed me just as much that he got into two positions in exactly that with exactly that chance. One that he kind of got hit wide, the goal, and
Mhm.
actually you could say two and a half, because there was one in the second half as well where he kind of scuffed his shot when he'd been put in on the right. I think I said it in one of my videos, but I don't know if you agree. I think Brennan Johnson just needs to stick to exactly what he's good at, which is driving at pace and trying to get that yard of separation to get his shot or cross away. And everything else, I think we don't worry him with.
No, I completely agree. And when we got him in, I actually was talking to my mate who's a big Spurs fan as well, and he wasn't really buying it. But I said, like, for me, Brennan is what I call like a shooting winger. He's not really a wide crossing winger in my view, even though he's done that pretty well. The biggest problem with our crossing game for years, from in my point of view, is that nobody's arrived in the box when we put the crosses in. When we put the good crosses in, and people don't seem to understand where they should be and so on. So, but then also we haven't had the crossing
Mm.
quality. But I think Brennan's definitely up there with the better crosser, especially with the flat cross. I think he got a good sense of timing. But I really think the way I saw him at Nottingham Forest and the way I've just seen him in general is as a shooting winger. That is to say, like, be super fast up on the right side and then cut in and shoot,
Yeah.
and really simple, really like kind of championship type play, but to a high level. His shooting, he has very, very good shooting technique, and we haven't seen it till now. Now that cross, that finish, for example, was really top level, and this is what Brennan has done tons of times
Yeah.
before. So
And his finish against Coventry was as well under pressure,
yeah,
was
yeah,
showed a lot
exactly.
of composure.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I feel like maybe these guys also have been getting a little bit out of their natural rhythm and natural play with what they're trying to learn from Ants, and Ants maybe in this game gave them more freedom. Or like, it's famously Ants says they have all the freedom in the world, and maybe they took it, and this is the result of it. I don't know. Either
Yeah.
way, this is definitely more viable. This is definitely more of what we should hope for, I think,
Yeah.
going forward. Yeah.
And long may it continue. Before I get on to the Qarabag and Man United games, just wanted to ask you, because I think you notice a lot of things that I don't in the games. And obviously I wasn't able to talk about this
Vice
after.
versa, Barnaby. Vice versa.
I wasn't able to talk about this after the Arsenal game because we conceded from that set piece. But having then watched the Arsenal-Man City game and watched Man City concede in exactly the same way, I actually kind of
Mm.
feel slightly overall that our set piece defending has improved this season a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed anything of that.
No,
And
I think we've improved a lot, to be honest. And I think for me, it's really a non-issue right now. Now it's more about discipline, and also the transition problem is still there in terms of, and like this, the start of this season has mainly been Romero like losing focus and not being
Hmm,
like being out of position in a bad manner. Others have as well, but Romero has been the most reoccurring problem, I would say. Why, I don't know, but for me,
He must
of
be,
course.
sorry to interrupt, Joey, but he must be knackered, mustn't he? Don't you think he's played,
Yeah,
not had a
yeah, I
rest
think
for a
he's
couple of years?
knackered. I think he's a little bit pissed off in this moment right now. I'm sure that will wear off once we have more success. But I definitely think, and like they of course alluded to it in the talk there about the traveling of the players and stuff like that. And Romero has quite the travel as well that he
True.
needs, so it affects them, even though they travel in the best of circumstances. As someone that travels far regularly, I know how it affects you. Although I'm 52, not a elite footballer at 25 or how old he is, so.
That's a good point. But yeah, maybe I wonder if maybe Romero. I've heard a few people in podcasts who've kind of got a bit of an inside um line to people who know Romero who say that actually he really loves Spurs and he does want to have lots of success here. But I also wonder whether,
Mhm.
some of those early Real Madrid um leaks, that Real Madrid might be interesting, maybe turning his head a little bit because there's also been that talk about him not particularly interested in signing a new contract quite yet.
I mean, without any malice, without any ill intent on his regard, there's probably not many ways to be more flattered as a footballer than being asked to join that team right now in
Yeah.
this moment. This is turning out to be an absolute crazy team that they're putting together there,
Yeah.
and getting that message. We want you to be a part of that
Yeah.
is definitely something that you don't need to have a big ego to be quite gassed about, I think. So
Completely. And look, if
yeah.
they want to get him, they're going to have to pay. But I hope they go for Saliba instead. Let's look ahead to Qarabag just briefly. I just want to ask you, Joey, what kind of, especially on the back of that Coventry 8 changes last week, what kind of lineup do you think he'll go with against Qarabag at home?
I really don't know. I mean, I think we'll see a lot of changes for sure. Um, I think he'll go probably the same way as Coventry, not in terms of lineup, but in terms of giving other players the opportunity, and then trying to fix it if it's not working after the
The second half
half.
fix.
Yeah. So I think that's probably going to be the lineup. I don't know. Maybe you might see like Bergwall or
Yeah,
something starting. For me, Gray is nowhere near ready for the big games right now. This is, of course, might be a game he might be fine starting in. But I thought even in Coventry, like he was asked to do the inverted fullback
mm,
role, which is new to him. But also just, I mean, this is a very young kid, and that's also what I kind of saw. I think we should shelter him a little bit more, just make
yeah.
sure that everything goes smoothly with him because he
Uh,
clearly has the tools. He just needs a little bit of maturing and getting used to the pressure that is Tottenham, of course,
of course. I,
so
I
yeah.
wonder if because Udogi played all of Coventry and then all of the weekend, I wonder whether um Porro will start, and then Ben Davis could play on the left, maybe, and Archie Gray could play in the centre mid. But then, actually, I don't even know who would play alongside Dragoshin centre back, unless it was one of Romero or Van der Ven.
I mean, don't you think it might be Ben Davis then doing the centre back role, and then
But Udogi
then
can't play. I mean, Udogi has basically played all the minutes, hasn't he?
yeah, but isn't, I mean, what I'm thinking also is like, isn't Udogi maybe needs the match it, like, isn't he on it, like, isn't that the thing now? We need to get him playing regularly to
Maybe.
get him up to form, or
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, I agree. It seems that we're one fullback short of kind of
One
making
Jed
it.
Spence short.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe one Jet Spence, one kind of excellent fullback, short of making or being fully flexible in this regard. Um, I would hate really. I mean, maybe it's okay with this game. I have no clue about
No, I
the
don't either.
opposition
Other than
team.
they've got lots of European experience. I mean, they played in, Europe every year since we last played them in like
Yeah,
2015 or whatever it was. So it
yeah.
won't be a walkover.
No, no, no. I never expect that, but I don't know if they're a really pacey winger team or what, and you would hate to see Ben Davis trying to play that role though. Even though going forward, Ben Davis, that would be fine. It's more
Yeah.
like the defensive liability,
I
as
wanted
as yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just wanted to ask a kind of bigger question about the Europa League. How do you feel Ange should prioritize this tournament? I mean, I feel like, obviously the home game against Qarabag is going to be one of the easiest games in this group we get. But when it comes
Mhm.
to it and we go, we play the bigger clubs like Roma, for instance, do you envisage him playing a full first team and should he?
I mean, for me, yeah, for me, this should be our number one target. To be honest, I would have it. I would have it like ideally. I would. This is my priority. Would be Europa League, FA Cup, League Cup, and then league position. I know it sounds brutal to put the league position at the end, but I just feel like we really need to utilize these cup competitions
Mm,
to at least get close to, like, do everything we can to get to have a shot at it, because that's what the club needs, that's what the fan needs, and that's what the squad needs as well for future league campaigns.
agreed,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Do you
I
remember,
don't.
sorry, just
I'm
to
not
interrupt, Joey.
saying no. Sorry, just to finish,
Yeah, yeah.
Barnaby. I'm not saying that we should play the strongest in Europa and then the strongest or the next strongest in FA or whatever. I'm saying we should pick one of these cups as the number one target. For me, it would be a Europa, and then the league is maybe the secondary thing. I'm not saying put all three cups
Got it.
ahead of the league. It's just for me, I would most want to win the Europa and then the FA and then the league. Yeah.
Got it.
So.
Well, just before you rode back on that, actually, you got me a little bit excited because it suddenly made me remember. Do you remember the early days of Gerard Houllier at Liverpool when he took over? And there's one season, early days, before they had any success in the league or the Champions League, where they won the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the UEFA Cup as it was in that one season. And they hadn't, I don't think they'd really won much before that since the kind of Kenny Dalglish era. So you've now got me excited that that's going to be Spurs' big season this year.
Are we doing a triple?
We're going to do the treble, and we're going to come as a result like eighth or tenth in the league. But it won't matter because we'll be in the Champions League because we won the Europa League.
I would dare anyone to find an unhappy Spurs fan if that came through. So yeah.
Absolutely right. And obviously, Old Trafford on Sunday. I don't know how much Man United you've been able to see, but are they as bad
Yes,
as I think they are under Ten Hag?
that's the thing is, Barnaby, they're a very good squad
Hmm.
and they're a very dysfunctional club.
Hmm.
And the manager is yeah, he's not getting it. He's not the right guy.
I don't think they play
Probably
for him. I
still
think they have the odd performance, but I don't think in general they really like him. The players,
no,
I mean.
and I don't think he likes them.
Well, yeah.
I don't think he likes the board. I don't think he likes his players. I don't think he likes the Premier League culture.
Hmm.
I think he would probably have done a lot better by going to La Liga or something like that, where you almost have like a one kind of paradigm for the league. That's the thing about the Premier League. You don't have one.
Hmm.
You have dominant clubs that maybe share some paradigms, but it's almost every paradigm you can think of in football will find its way into the Premier League. And I think for him the grit and intensity of the Premier League has been what he's run up against, like the player, and of course the player power and the club as well. But because Ajax is a very that league. I'm not gonna with full respect to them, and the same goes for the German league. Even though it can be fast, it can be all of these. What's always kind of missing is the massive physicality of the Premier League, and. And even if you're talking about fast and stuff like German football, it usually goes in periods, and there's a big breather in between there, but you don't get that in the Premier
Yeah.
League. And when you have a player power club, this
Mm.
is usually something that goes pretty quickly because it's hard. It's really, really tough for them, So if you don't feel the whip or you don't believe in the carrot, then you kind of switch off a little bit. And you've seen that for many years with these players, so.
Yeah. I think what surprised me is that Ten Hag's never got United playing the way he had that Ajax team playing who came to Spurs in the semi-final, and it's kind of really shocked me because he's had 2-3 years now, and he should be getting that style out of them. However, despite all of this, everything we say,
Mhm.
we're not going to win there, are we? Because we never do.
Uh, I would, like maybe I'm being delusional, but for me, always the 6-6-2
Yeah.
stands out for me.
No
So
fans there though, were there?
no fans, no. But I mean, I don't know. If Ronaldo wouldn't have decided to show everybody that they should shut their mouth and I'm Ronaldo, we would have won that game, for example. I
Yeah.
think so. It's kind of you can't. We certainly don't have the numbers. We certainly don't have the history. But I wouldn't be. I think at least for somebody that's been spending some time on being critical on Ant, I do think Ant is definitely better. Is gonna have a better setup than Ten Hag. I think. Yeah, I think Ants actually can do a number on Ten Hag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, once again, I just think Ange needs his kind of statement away win, and I hope that this is it. I
Mhm.
really do. Just before we go, Jory, just wanted to ask your thoughts on some of those quotes that came out from the fan forum. Obviously, a lot of fans have chosen to take them quite negatively. I think I think those things are a bit of a weird setup, really. I can't get on board with. I can't get on board with the people who are like, oh, they don't allow the real fans in to ask the difficult
Mhm.
questions. Because if you remember, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a very famous, very well memed clip from West Ham when Harry Redknapp was manager there, and somebody, whilst Redknapp sat there with Frank Lampard, one of the fans slags off Frank Lampard. It's like
Mhm.
you in the modern day you can't have that. So I feel like that fan form is always going to be a bit of a PR stunt. But I don't know.
Mhm.
How did you feel kind of seeing some of those quotes? Anything in particular stand out for you?
Well, I mean that's just to on that point, that's why you shouldn't have them because they're kind of bullshit
Hmm.
either way. This is the same reason I don't read the biography, especially not on contemporary people, is because either it's a glam job or it's a hit piece, and neither is interesting for me, So you're not gonna get closer to the truth with this stuff either way. I would, and like also the lack of reading the room, like you've often said, is like why are you doing it? It's never a success in the fan community. Maybe they're playing to a different audience, Maybe this is more for the corporate
Yeah,
audience,
maybe.
and so maybe it's a success there, but certainly it never kind of the dominating chatter by the fan community is never positive after these meets,
Yeah.
and whether you're leaving out or how you feel about these things, and I've been leaving out for quite a while and still have my reasons, but I also have a lot of respect for people like yourself, Barnaby, especially who are kind of neither, or
Hmm.
even like a Sean that's been, in my view, very invested in Levy's project, or seeing it from Levy's point of view. I think if you take the Woolwich FC as an example,
Mm.
there was the fan community and the fan chatter was dominated by talk of the ownership and the board until they kind of stepped up and did the right thing. And also, of course, Arteta got his squad working, his plan working.
Hmm.
And now you never really hear it. You rarely see anything about it. So what I would say in general, to whether either way, what your feelings are about the board and the ownership, is like we should at least agree on the fact that once when a club spends this much time on the corporate board stuff, when the fan community spends this much time on talking about that, it is a sign of dysfunction in the community in general. And so that annoys me, because I'm like I've kind of written off the idea of Levy out for me, and I'm thinking, okay, hope if there's any chance of, even with my skeptical view on everything, if there's any chance of having fun and letting the football do the talking, it would be with somebody like Ange. So
Yeah.
let's just focus on that. Is my kind of, that's my mantra for this season. Although I would also caveat that a lot of that for me would be in spite of the board, not because of the board. But
I understand.
it would also, some of it, be because of the board. And I will also, like you pointed out in one of your videos recently, I don't make light of the fact that the club is now at a status and at a level that's completely different from what we were. But that also is kind of the problem for Levy and the board. Is like, now you can't sit on those laurels. Now
True.
you need to take the next step, So
True.
yeah.
I
So
I think
yeah.
for me, one of the I mean, just going back to what you said, I think I completely agree about what's the point of having those fan forums. Like, I basically think that it happens because
Mhm.
that way they are able to say, oh, we do the fan forum where we give you the chance to ask your questions to the manager, the
Yeah, which
captain, the
is one
chairman.
yeah,
But it's paying lip service to it, because it's
exactly.
basically literally so they can write it on a piece of paper, isn't it, really?
Exactly. And this is kind of what kind of annoys me the most, or triggers me the most, is these kind of corporate PR games, Not just leave it out. Everybody sees through it.
Yeah.
But maybe, like I said, maybe they're playing to a different audience that doesn't see through it, or just takes this as, water, like, or air, like it's everywhere in their circles, and that, now I'm talking about the finance investment part of it, and
Yeah.
and that's also the other thing that often we forget, because I think you can even take Levy out of it and the board out of it. The fact is that we're a heavily leveraged club, and that's often put out there as an excuse. That's not an excuse. That's actually the grand design. That's actually the money-making part of it, is to be leveraged to the hilt, is to create assets that you can leverage to the hilt. But then you are at the mercy of the rating agencies, and
Mhm.
we are triple A rated corporation or entity. But that means, like, if that rating changes into a B or something, that would be more disastrous than almost half a stadium or something. Like, that would be one of the biggest financial impacts that we
What would
could
cause
have.
that to happen? What kind of thing would cause that to happen? Like another pandemic that lasted longer,
Well, I
well,
mean,
basically
for
our,
drastic.
an inability for us to pay off our annual debt, presumably.
Well, actually, what I think right now is, like, for the nominal change, like from a triple A down to a double A or something like that, that would be caused by a lowering of revenue
Right.
growth,
Right.
but like down to a B or something, that would have to be much bigger
Got it.
issue. It could be maybe that the board got kicked out, by fan pressure or something like that. But I doubt that that's ever going to happen as long as Levy owns such a big stake in
Totally.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Look,
So,
look, we've only got a couple of minutes, but just
yeah.
one thing on that. I completely, you know, and I appreciate you referencing that we feel a bit differently about this, but I
Mm,
totally understand your viewpoint as well. I do. And
mm,
I know for a fact that it wouldn't have taken much longer of Conte or Mourinho or those days to kind of push me down that road. But
mm,
one thing that kind of keeps me from going down that route is even it's always like what's happening around us. And when I look at what's happening to Everton at the moment, and I know it
mm,
looks like they might have their savior, but the reality of
mm,
Everton is it was only
mm.
probably 7 or 8 years ago when Everton fans were incredibly excited because they had Mashiri just come in. They were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, he's a billionaire, and we're going to be
Mm,
chat. We're going to jump above
yeah.
Tottenham. We're going to jump above all that." And it's like it's so easy to get the wrong guy. And now I know we don't have the perfect guy,
No.
but
But
we don't have the wrong guy.
no, well, and exactly, but and to be honest, Barnaby, as a Levy outer, I actually think the risk is quite high that we would get an even worse ownership now. So that sounds kind of contradictory, but I can't know that. And the way I kind of operate in general is that when I feel something is wrong, it's wrong.
Mm,
I can't be gaming the potential future, that I think I can't be playing politics with it in that way. I feel it's wrong. I feel it's wrong in many clubs, a lot worse than ours.
yeah,
um, and I don't like that. I don't think it's a good direction, and I think in our case the likelihoods of us getting a American consortium is fairly high, because we're connected to all this
yeah,
American finance. And that would be the worst version, For me, I would much rather see Qataris or Saudis or something like that, even though you can, and I agree, like it's not good in that manner, but at least in that way, they are focused on lifting their profile and status in the world of sport by winning honors,
mhm,
So and what we can see with Man City, who have clearly been bending the rules quite elaborately, they run a club as perfectly as you can run it. Really, they have at least honored the footballing part of it.
yeah,
Even if they've cheated in the
yeah.
financial part
Jory,
of
what
it.
you're basically saying is if you can't beat them, join them.
Well, no, I'm not saying honestly, but I think that this is now we're getting into a bit of a talk, but I think that the problem here is that a couple of clubs in England decided to make themselves exclusive and take all the money for themselves, basically, and that kind of made the blueprint for something
Yeah,
now where there's even bigger fish coming in now. Now they want to keep them out, but
yeah,
they also want to keep the smaller clubs out as well. They want to just keep it frozen in their little moment, And but they laid the blueprint for all of this sports washing and Bowley with the speculation, clear water or clear
yeah,
lake and all of that. So I would definitely want to see, like, if we want to talk about a good model and whatever, definitely the German model is definitely
yeah,
something to look at, and many Scandinavian countries have all kinds of kind of safety valves, and you would still get a top league. It's not like, oh, now we're going to be a farmers league and it's going to be something else. No, no, you
that's
would
true.
still get a top
Sorry
league.
to cut
Yeah.
you off, Jory, but I've got less than
Yeah.
30 seconds. But thank you so much for
Yes.
coming on the show, guys. Thank you for watching at home.
My
Make sure you
pleasure.
press like, make sure you press that subscribe button, and you can become a member less than it's just £1 a month. All the details in the description box below. And let's hope for 2 wins this week. Come on, you Spurs.